Welcome, welcome, welcome to the very first episode of Doors of the Universe podcast. My name is Aaron, and I will be your host on this journey through the strange, the unusual, and the unknown. Perhaps you've heard me before, perhaps you have not. I am also on a podcast I do with two friends called We Don't Talk Politics. We are three adults who all have our own lives, and it makes it hard for us to get together and coordinate times that can work where we can record together. So I decided I wanted to do a podcast on my own because I knew of the three of us, I had the most free time. I had the least amount of responsibility. So I figured I would do one on my own so I could have something. I wanted to do something where it was a little more consistent with the releases. Just have something and get to I love doing podcasting. I love researching things and then getting to tell all of you about all the things I've learned through my research. But especially the paranormal, the strange, the unusual, and the unknown. What got me into all this was probably, I didn't even realize this till I started doing this episode, that what kind of catapulted me into all of these genres was Ripley's Believe It or Not. I remember when I was a kid, I would get the Ripley's Believe It or Not books, and I would read them relentlessly. Never been to a Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, but the books were definitely something I found interesting and just kind of sucked me into, well, things that are unbelievable. Which brought me to middle school and high school, and I got more involved in television aspect of it with X-Files, Unsolved Mysteries, Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, The Outer Limits, some shows more recently, things like Stranger Things, Ancient Aliens, just things that are fun to explore and look into. Do I believe everything that is on these shows or everything that I'm going to be talking about? No. Do I believe some of these things are real and are somewhat credible, I guess? I don't know. Yeah, I do. I do believe it, all right? And you have to deal with that. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And that's okay. That's the great thing about this. We all get to go on this journey together, have fun, and explore things and learn new things about people, places, and creatures that we may not have known even existed or were thought to exist. So, the doors of the universe. What are the doors of the universe? Well, that actually comes from an X-Files quote from Fox Mulder, where he says, "We send these men up into space to unlock the doors of the universe, and we don't even know what's behind them." So, which kind of made me feel like that's what I want to explore on, and by space I mean everywhere, like all the things that are unknown. There's going to be a lot of cryptids. There's going to be some paranormal ghost stories. It's going to be a mixture of things. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have fun going through with this and exploring all these things with me. Because I would love to get a community going of like-minded people who have similar interest in this. And at some point, I'd like to have interviews, have guests on that I can just hang out with and talk about the things that interest us. So that's the basis of what's going on with this podcast, the Doors of the Universe podcast. And each episode will just go through and explore different things that I find interesting, or that someone suggests to me that I might find interesting, and we'll find out together whether or not it's interesting, whether I find it interesting, whether you find it interesting. We're just going to go on a little interesting journey, you know what I'm saying? To the next level. Let's check it out. Let's see what's all out there. But today, we are not going too far to explore this journey. I mean, somewhat far. It's pretty far from me where I am currently. I am located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and this episode takes place in the southern U.S., in Georgia in particular. Today we're going to talk about the Georgia Guidestones. Prior to making this episode, I had heard of the Georgia Guidestones, but had zero idea what they were. So I said to myself, this is probably something we can research, probably something that we could have some fun with. But it turns out that this actually was way more up my alley than I expected it to be. So if you don't know what the Georgia Guidestones are, we will have pictures of them on the Instagram and Twitter. Some people have called them the Stonehenge, the American Stonehenge. The Georgia Guidestones are a granite monument erected in 1980 in Elbert County, Georgia, in the United States. A set of 10 guidelines is inscribed on the structure in 8 modern languages, and a shorter message is inscribed at the top of the structure in 4 ancient language scripts. The monument stands at an approximate elevation of 750 feet above sea level. It is about 90 miles east of Atlanta, 45 miles from Athens, Georgia, and 9 miles north of the center of the city of Elberton, which everybody knows, the booming metropolis of Elberton. It's called Granite Country because that's what the region is known for. Christopher Kubas of Elbert Granite Association. They have their own granite association. That's how big of a deal granite is in the Elbert region. We do headstones and things of that nature, monuments, war memorials, and things like that. But this is really one of the largest. Almost 20 feet tall. I would say it's a pretty big monument. One slab stands in the center, and it has 4 other slabs arranged around it. A capstone lies on top of the 5 slabs, which are astronomically aligned, which we'll get to that later. An additional stone tablet, which is set in the ground a short distance to the west of the structure, provides some notes on the history and purpose of the Guidestones. The structure is sometimes referred to as an American Stonehenge. The monument is 19 feet, 3 inches tall. Couldn't just stop it at 19, could you? Had to get those extra 3 inches. It is made from 6 granite slabs, weighing 237,746 pounds in all. The anonymity of the Guidestones authors and their apparent advocacy of population control, eugenics, and internationalism have made them an object of controversy and conspiracy theories. The Georgia Guidestones have been called America's most mysterious monument. All right, so let's go into a little history of the Georgia Guidestones. Um, in June of 1979, a man using the pseudonym Robert C. Christian, it was misspelled on the capstone that it was not pseudonym, it was pseudonym. Either way. But he approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company on behalf of a small group of loyal Americans and commissioned the structure. Christian explained that the stones would function as a compass, calendar, and clock and should be capable of withstanding catastrophic events. Fair request. 20 foot, almost 20 foot. Yeah, that's a lot of stone. I think it's gonna hold up pretty well. Granite's supposed to be pretty tough too, from what I hear. It's one of the tougher rocks. Yeah. Joe Finley of Elberton Granite assumed that Christian was a nut and attempted to discourage him by providing a quote for the commission, which was several times higher than any project. A quote for the commission, which was several times higher than any project the company had previously taken, explaining that the Guidestones require additional tools and consultants. To Finley's surprise, Christian accepted the quote. When arranging the payment, Christian said that he represented a group which had been planning the Guidestones for 20 years and which wanted to remain anonymous. Yes, I would like these giant stones placed in the middle of rural Georgia. You do not need to know why. Christian delivered a scale model of the Guidestones and 10 pages of specifications. The 5-acre site was apparently purchased by Christian on October 1st of 1979 from farm owner Wayne, I'm going to mess this up, Mullenix, Mullenix. I'm going with Mullenix. Mullenix and his children were given lifetime cattle grazing rights on the Guidestone site. On March 22nd, 1980, the monument was unveiled before an audience variously described as 100 or 400 people. Christian later transferred ownership of the land and the Guidestones to Elbert County. In 2008, so we got a little bit of a time gap here. In 2008, the stones were defaced with polyurethane paint and graffiti with slogans such as "Death to the New World Order." Wired magazine called the defacement the first serious act of vandalism in the Guidestones' history. In September 2014, an employee of the Elbert County Maintenance Department contacted the Federal Bureau of Investigation when the stones were vandalized with a graffiti including the phrase, "I am Isis, goddess of love." All right, so it's a little history there. Man goes to town, wants to remain anonymous. I don't know if I said that, but once the construction was done and everything, he wanted all the documents regarding the purchase and the building of the monument to be destroyed. He's looking for total anonymity here. And he was, yes, with a small group of loyal Americans. It just sounds like a comforting group of people. Just a small group of loyal Americans. Nothing to worry about there. Just build it for us. So the inscriptions on the Guidestones. There's a message consisting of a set of 10 guidelines or principles. And it's engraved on the Georgia Guidestones in 8 different languages. 1 language on each face of the 4 large upright stones. Moving clockwise around the structure from due north, the languages are English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, traditional Chinese, and Russian. So these are some of the more popular languages, more commonly used languages in the world currently. So trying to make sure that everybody can understand what the Guidestones are saying. The messages engraved on the Georgia Guidestones deal with 4 major fields: governance and the establishment of a world government, population and reproduction control, the environment and man's relationship to nature, and spirituality. So I'm going to go ahead and read off these inscriptions. I'll go from the bottom to the top. Give us kind of a just a little overview of what each one says. So the last inscription says, "Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature." Seems fair. I can get behind this. I'm supporting this 100%. The older I get, the more I recognize the importance of nature. I recognize the importance of how all things in nature are interconnected and vital to our survival as a human race. And how we're probably just going to keep messing it up. I think the guy who tried to deface the Mona Lisa this week could probably get behind this guideline. It's for the earth. But yeah, I mean, that's reasonable. Leave it better than you came, right? Be not a cancer on the earth. All right, so that's number 10. Number 9, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Okay, I think it's most basic level. Everybody can get behind this. We need to prize truth, beauty, and love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Something we're not sure of is a definition of what seeking harmony with the infinite means. Are we talking about God? We're talking about individual things that last forever? Or just the always expanding infinite span of space and time? Seeking harmony with the infinite. But overall, it seems reasonable. Seems like one we can probably all get behind, all reasonable people. All right. Balance personal rights with social duties. Balance personal rights with social duties. Yeah, I'm all for it. Let's give everybody some individual rights, but also put in to promote the good of society and preserve those rights. If you don't want to get put in, you get shipped to Alaska and Polar Bear Reserve or something. I don't know. Do your part or get out. I mean, that's reasonable, right? Just do good. Try and make society better. So balance personal rights with social duties. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. All right. Got to have some sort of structure. We need laws, but not petty laws. No room for petty laws here. Well, I could go more into useless officials, but we may save that discussion for another episode. But yes, let's put laws in place, but avoid the petty ones, and let's avoid the useless officials. Again, so far overall, I'm for this. These are all pretty good guidelines, right? All right. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. I am definitely a states' rights guy. Let's the less big government I have in my nation or my state or my nation state, the happier I am. It's resolving external disputes in a world court. Seems interesting. Who's running this world court? Who are these supreme world court judges? How are they being picked? Overall, I mean, we're letting Supreme Court justices run the laws here now, so I mean, it wouldn't be too much different. We're not straying too far. We're not going too crazy right now. Let's let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Fair enough. All right. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Justice for days. I mean, that is what we all deserve. We need justice. Protect the people and nations, fair laws and just courts. The only issue I always have with this is how you put into place the fair laws and the just courts when you have humans running things. I'm unsure. It just seems like it never seems to work out when you have humans run. But maybe we'll get lucky in the future, and we get some of those oracles like in Minority Report. They'll just let us know when people are guilty, and we won't have to worry about humans dealing with it. Am I right? Get the humans out of here. They're ruining everything. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Still, sounds good. Next one. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So, passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So I wasn't sure exactly what they meant by tempered reason. So I had to look up temperate, having the elements mixed in satisfying proportions. So I mean, I guess I can be for this. Seems like if you want to have these things in a society, it should be a good mixture of the three: passion, faith, tradition. Let's just equally mix these and make it so it's to satisfying proportions, if you will. But yeah, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Okay, I can back that. Unite humanity with a living new language. All for it. Having the ability to communicate flawlessly does seem like a reasonable way to have a society function. Something where everybody can understand what everybody is saying and being able to communicate freely, which seems like it would open more doors to just a more harmonious society. But then again, you got the tower, which seemed to be like, if we go with the thought process of the Tower of Babel, where everybody was working together and they were doing they built this great tower and they were going to the heavens, and then God made everybody have different languages. And nope, not gonna build today. So yeah, that's it just seems like if we all had this one single language, we could accomplish so much more. So, unite humanity with a living new language. All right, let's make it happen. Let's get cracking on this. Next, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. As someone who has scheduled to talk with his doctor recently about getting a vasectomy in the coming weeks, I can get behind this idea. I feel like there should be some sort of structure on reproduction and who's reproducing, and I just feel like there's a lot of ill-equipped parents out there, and the children are suffering for it. And then just bringing a child into the world currently. I mean, have you seen the world lately? Who seriously in the right mind is bringing a child into this world? It's crazy. It's crazy. It's nuts right now. Everything's falling apart. They don't have baby formula to feed them anyway. So let's guide reproduction wisely. Now this is the first on the list is also the biggest one that most people have the biggest issues with. So the first guideline is maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So a lot of people read this and they assume it is the cry for genocide or just taking out a large chunk. Currently, most of the videos I was watching, because this was popular back around 2012 when everybody thought the world was going to end in 2012, they were saying like, you need 6.5 billion people killed. Well, now you need 7.4 billion people would have to be removed. Our numbers have gone up that much in 10 years. There are 7.9 billion people in the world currently. And they're the Georgia Guidestones guidelines recommend 500 million. So yeah, that'd be a little dent. A lot of people think this is out of Malthusianism, is the idea that population growth is potentially exponential while the growth of the food supply or other resources is linear, which eventually reduces living standards to the point of triggering a population die-off. This event, called a Malthusian catastrophe, also known as a Malthusian trap, population trap, Malthusian check, Malthusian crisis, Malthusian specter, or Malthusian crunch, occurs when population growth outspaces agricultural production, causing famine or war, resulting in poverty and depopulation. Or we just have Thanos step in and just do a little finger snap, kind of set things back on track. Was Thanos a believer in the Malthusian catastrophe? Who knows? Maybe not. Malthusianism, news to me. But yeah, I mean, it does seem reasonable. It seems like the numbers are getting too high, and logistically, it seems like I'm not saying it's reasonable. We need to kill off billions of people. I'm saying it's reasonable to assume that once the population gets so high, the amount of food that's produced will not meet that, and eventually it will lead to famine or war, resulting in poverty and depopulation. Which, I mean, when are we not in war? When is there not people starving in the world? I don't know. But yes, this is the guideline that causes the most issue for people with the Georgia Guidestones. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So I mean, and this was 1980, did I say? I think 1980 it was erected. So I mean, these are current thoughts. It's not some 100 years ago this went up and something. That was another thing. I did not realize that this was so new. I thought this was something that was going to be, the Georgia Guidestones were something that were going to be a lot older. But I was wrong. So there's an explanatory tablet next, it's set alongside of the stones, just a big square rectangle tablet that's on the ground. It's a few feet to the west of the monument. An additional Granite ledger has been set level with the ground. This tablet identifies the structure and the languages used on it, and lists various facts about the size, weight, and astronomical features of the stones, the date it was installed, and the sponsors of the project. It also refers to a time capsule buried under the tablet. But blank spaces on the stone, intended for filling in the dates on which the capsule was buried and when it is to be opened, have not been inscribed. So it is uncertain if the time capsule was ever actually put in place. If you look at the tablet, giant stone tablet on the ground, it says the date it was it has a space for when the time capsule is supposed to be buried and when it's supposed to be opened, but neither have been filled in. The complete text of the explanatory tablet is detailed below. The tablet is somewhat inconsistent with respect to punctuation and misspells the word pseudonym. The original spelling, punctuation, and line breaks in the text have been preserved in the transcription, which follows. At the top of the tablet is written the Georgia Guidestones. Center cluster erected March 22nd, 1980. Immediately below this line is the outline of a square, inside which is written, "Let these be guidestones to an age of reason." Around the edge of the square are written translations to 4 ancient languages, 1 per edge, starting from the top and proceeding clockwise. They are Babylonian in cuneiform script, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Ancient Egyptian in hieroglyphs. So earlier we talked about the astronomical features involved with this. If you look at this, if you look at the pictures, you'll see everything described here. I'll make sure those are in the pictures. There are updated instructions for the site's time capsule. On the left side of the tablet is the following column of text. Astronomical features. 1. Channel through stone indicates celestial pole. 2. Horizontal slot indicates annual travel of sun. 3. Sunbeam through the capstone marks noontime throughout the year. Author R.C. Christian, a pseudonym. That's where they had the misspelling of, was not pseudonym, it was pseudonym with an N instead of an M at the end. So we don't know what that's all about. As much as they paid, you would think they would get the spelling right. Sponsors, a small group of Americans who seek the age of reason. Time capsule, placed 6 feet, 1.83 meters below the spot on, and the spot's left blank, and to be opened on, and the spot's left blank. The word appear as shown under the time capsule heading. No dates are engraved. So the Guidestone languages. Below the 2 columns of text is written the caption Guidestone languages with a diagram of the granite slab layout beneath it. The name of the 8 modern languages are inscribed along the long sides of the projecting rectangles, 1 per edge. Starting from due north and moving clockwise, around the upper edge of the northeast rectangles listed first, they are English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. At the bottom of the tablet is the following text. Additional information available at Elberton Granite Museum and Exhibit, College Avenue, Elberton, Georgia. Which I did not look into to see what they have there at the Elberton Granite Museum and Exhibit. And you know what's most upsetting? What's most upsetting is that last December, January, I think it was December, I was in Georgia. I was probably within, I think I was 90 miles because I was in Atlanta, or a suburb of Atlanta. So I was about 90 miles away from this, and because I had not done the research or knew that this was actually in Georgia in the U.S., I did not go and get to see the Georgia Guidestones when I was that close. And who knows, the next time I'll be down in Georgia. My brother lives there, but it may be a while before I make it back down, and I am upset at myself that I did not get to see the Georgia Guidestones, but I did get to try Slutty Vegan, and I highly recommend them if you are in the Atlanta area. Some fine vegan food. Pass the taste check, pass the vibe check. Solid restaurant all around. So the astronomical features. The 4 outer stones are oriented to mark the limits of the 18.6-year lunar declination cycle. The center column features a hole drilled at an angle from one side to the other, through which can be seen the North Star. The same pillar has a slot carved through it, which is aligned with the sun's solstices and equinoxes. It looks like a Mel slot, basically, but you can look through that, and it's aligned with the solstices and equinoxes. A 7/8-inch aperture in the capstone allows a ray of sun to pass through at noon each day, shining a beam on the center stone, indicating the day of the year. So it's crazy. I mean, this thing is super accurate. It actually is, like they said, a calendar, a clock, and a vessel to hell. No, I'm just kidding. Though some might think that. Speaking of what people think, though, what do people think about the Georgia Guidestones? Perhaps you have heard of someone named Yoko Ono. Said the inscribed messages are a stirring call to rational thinking. Ono was quoted as referring to the American Stonehenge, saying, "I want people to know about the stones. We're headed toward a world where we might blow ourselves up, and maybe the globe will not exist. It's a nice time to reaffirm ourselves, knowing all the beautiful things that are in this country, and the Georgia stones symbolize that." Those are nice words. Thank you, Yoko. Thank you. So the Guidestones have become a subject of interest for conspiracy theorists. Now we're getting the juice. One of them, an activist named Mark Dice, demanded that the Guidestones be smashed into 1 million pieces, and then the rubble used for a construction project, claiming that the Guidestones are of a deep satanic origin, and that R.C. Christian belongs to the Luciferian secret society related to the New World Order. The elite are planning to develop successful life extension technology in the next few decades that will nearly stop the aging process, and they fear that with the current population of Earth so high, the masses will be using resources that the elite want for themselves. The Guidestones are the New World Order's 10 Commandments. They're also a way for the elite to get a laugh at the expense of the uninformed masses, as their agenda stands as clear as day and the zombies don't even notice it. Wow. Mark Dice calling it out, laying it down for us, keeping it real. Thank you, Mark Dice, for letting us know about the deep satanic origin and the Luciferian secret society that R.C. Christian belongs to. Radical Christians have referred to the 10 messages inscribed on the Guidestones as the 10 Commandments of the Antichrist. In 2000, Christian minister Reagan R. Davis said the messages on the Guidestones are a clear call for world government, for state-sponsored eugenic programs, and for a global... Sorry, my words are slipping up here. I need a little agua in my life. You know what I'm saying? Drink. That's the good. Clear call for world government, for state-sponsored eugenic programs, and for a global culling of the human herd, all of which were predicted in the book of Revelation. That was 22 years ago that Reagan R. Davis put that out there. At the unveiling of the monument, A local minister proclaimed that he believed the monument was for sun worshippers, for cult worship, and for devil worship. All three getting together, coexist sticker on each of their cars. Conspiracy theorist Jay Widener has said that the pseudonym of the man who commissioned the R stones, get a little heads up there, who commissioned the stones, R.C. Christian, resembles Rose Cross Christian, or Christian Rosencreuz, the founder of the Rosicrucian order. Now, this little spiritual movement here, actually will probably be getting its own episode, because this was my first time hearing about them, and it seems like they have a bit of a tie to the Georgia Guidestones. It seems like there was a very real possibility there was a tie between R.C. Christian, as their symbol is a cross with a rose on it, which is the Rose Cross. But either way, Rosicrucianism is a spiritual and cultural movement that arose in Europe in the early 17th century after the publication of several texts purported to announce the existence of a hitherto unknown esoteric order to the world and made seeking its knowledge attractive to many. The mysterious doctrine of the order is built on esoteric truths of the ancient past, which, concealed from the average man, provide insight into nature, the physical universe, and the spiritual realm. The manifestos do not elaborate extensively on the matter, but clearly combine references to Kabbalah, Hermeticism, alchemy, and Christian mysticism and psychic manipulation. The Rosicrucian manifestos heralded a universal reformation of mankind through a science allegedly kept secret for decades until the intellectual climate might receive it. Controversies arose on whether they were a hoax, whether the Order of the Rosy Cross existed as described in the manifestos, and whether the whole thing was a metaphor disguising a movement that really existed, but in a different form. Seattle-based conspiracist Jay Wiedner says the Guidestones were created by Rosicrucians who believe that a solar event comes every 13,000 years to devastate Earth. He says the Rosicrucian order is working behind the scenes to create planetary chaos that culminates in a destructive solar event. Conspiracy theorist Van Smith, sounds made up, says the Guidestones were the pet project of a white supremacist from Iowa. Woo, Iowa. Not white supremacists. We're not sharing the white supremacists. Not on here, good sir. White supremacists from Iowa who sought to establish a totalitarian one-world government. He also says encoded in the Guidestone structure is a numerical value in feet of Dubai's Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. He says this proves that the planners intended the Burj Khalifa to build the new Tower of Babel that would usher in the dawning of a new era in which man can become God. So I was talking about that earlier. If you're not familiar with the story of the Tower of Babel, people had gotten together and decided they wanted to build a tower to reach the heavens, to reach God, and they were doing quite well, actually, well enough that, and at this time, they all had one language that they were communicating with, and God's like, and ends up giving everybody different languages so that they can't communicate, and i.e. the Tower of Babel, i.e. Babelfish. The Tower of Babel, there you have it. So, alright. One interpretation of the stones is that they describe the basic concepts required to rebuild a devastated civilization. As author Brad Meltzer notes, that the stones were built in 1979 at the height of the Cold War, and thus argues that they may have been intended as a message to the possible survivors of a nuclear World War III. The engraved suggestion to keep humanity's population below 500 million could be made under the assumption that the war had already reduced humanity below this number. The Guidestones were briefly shown and discussed in the documentary films Sherman's March, 1986, and Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, 2007, and were featured extensively in a 2012 episode of Mysteries at the Museum, a Monumental Mysteries special featuring Don Wildman. Alex Jones, our favorite Alex Jones, I'm not even going to attempt to do Alex Jones right now, in his film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, claims the Guidestones represent a genocidal depopulation program sponsored by the world's financial elites. So yeah, a little blueprint for enslavement, global enslavement. Since one of the 8 languages of the Guidestones is Hebrew, which is only spoken by 9 million people, others insist that the monument is part of the Zionist plan to construct a New World Order. Everybody's going around this New World Order, which again, perhaps we shall go into an episode where we further discuss the New World Order. Candace Taylor, a minor candidate for the 2022 Republican nomination. Okay, so this is recent. Candace Taylor, a minor candidate for the 2022 Republican nomination for governor of Georgia, made the destruction of the Guidestones one of her campaign pledges, claiming they were a satanic evil. Well, that's quite the platform to run on. But we are in Georgia. So the Rosicrucians have knowledge of periodic solar catastrophe that will result in great loss of life. They believe that there is a solar cycle that lasts every 11 to 13,000 years. The sun goes through a magnetic reversal and begins emitting solar flares which bake the Earth and can alter the makeup of our planet. Trying to set forth some rules for the people who survive the coming catastrophe can remake the world in a better way. NASA is beginning to find those periodic solar cycles to be true. And in 2012, the part of the sun that creates the most solar flares should be pointed at the Earth like the barrel of a shotgun. So that was off of Brad Metzer's Decoded, which is a History Channel show that I watched the entire episode on. That aired February 3rd, 2011. NASA released info of major solar flare increase happening in 2012, which brings me to my next favorite conspiracy, that we all died in 2012. And we're currently just existing in some augmented reality. But that was the thing that the episode I watched, there was it aired in February 3rd, 2011. There was quite a few people who were saying that the Georgia Guidestones were going hand in hand with like the Aztec calendar and other just end of the. It seemed like 2012 was a big end of the world for a lot of people. Thought that was coming, but as you can see, we are still here. Unless, like I said, one of my favorite conspiracy theories, we all actually died in 2012, and we're just currently existing in some form of augmented reality. That's fun to think about, right? That's fun to let's not focus on that too long. Think about it too long, it'd probably make us sad. So guides for New Earth after the Earth change theory. The Earth change theory was by Edward Case. Goes into place in which the theory whose tenets and philosophies were adopted by the Rosicrucian. The phrase "earth changes" was coined by the American psychic Edgar Cayce, who lived from 1877 to 1945, to refer to the belief that the world would soon enter a series of cataclysmic events causing major alterations in human life on the planet. This includes natural events such as earthquakes, melting of the polar ice caps, which is happening, earthquakes, which are happening, a pole shift of the planetary axis, major weather events, which are happening, solar flares, which are happening, we haven't burned up yet, and so on, as well as huge changes of the local and global social, economical, and political systems. I mean, you could say that's happening. That may or may not be happening. Cayce himself also made many prophecies of cataclysmic events involving the whole planet. He claimed the polar axis would shift and that many areas that are now land would become ocean floor, and that Atlantis would rise from the sea. Kind of exciting. We did just have Aquaman come out recently, and it was a bit of bust. Maybe if Atlantis comes out of the sea, things, might get a little more street cred. The belief that the California coast would slip into the sea, a common feature of Earth changes predictions, originated with Cayce's alleged prophecies. In more recent times, self-proclaimed psychic Gordon Michael Scallion has issued a variety of prophecies centering on the concept of Earth changes, and publishes a monthly newsletter, the Earth Changes Report. Cayce's term has been taken up in certain segments of the New Age movement, often associated with other predictions by people claiming to have psychic abilities. Belief in Earth changes is also found among Native Americans, some of whom refer to the concept as the Great Purification. These beliefs have occasionally been associated with Christian millennialism and beliefs about UFOs. Some New Age adherents believe that the Earth changes will preface a golden age of spirituality and world peace. In the late 1980s, Lori Toy published the I Am America map, based on several visions. Oh man, we're tongue-tied tonight. Based on several visions that she claimed to have beginning in 1983. The I Am American map sold over 40,000 copies and was followed by subsequent maps: Freedom Star World Map, Golden City Map, and an Earth Changes Progression series of maps. These maps represent the Earth's future geography after climatic Earth changes. Earthquakes, floods, solar flares, but fear not, certain safe zones won't be affected in the U.S. Only 10 locations in the U.S., one of the locations being the Guidestones. The other locations being furthest from west to east. These are the safe cities, the post-apocalyptic cities after the floods and earthquakes. San Diego, Spokane, Phoenix, Denver, Dallas, Kansas City, Chicago, Orlando, and Washington, D.C. Most of California, Oregon, Washington, and Nevada will be underwater after the Earth change. Mississippi flooding will be covering Louisiana, from parts of Texas, all the way up to the eastern border of Iowa. Don't worry, my friends in Des Moines, you're in the clear. It's only the eastern border of Iowa that's going to be taken under the sea. Maine and parts of New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Jersey are all underwater. According to the map shown, this is according to the map shown by Dr. James Burton on Brad Meltzer's Decoded. All right, that gives us a general overview. Couple of interesting facts about the Georgia Guidestones. which we spoke about earlier, but the stones were defaced with graffiti in 2008. The spray-painted message was "Death to the New World Order." So saying it now makes a little more sense why it says that, just because there are so many people that believe it's connected to the New World Order. A mysterious time capsule is allegedly buried nearby. A tablet erected with the Guidestones claims the time capsule is buried beneath a tablet, although there is no proof the capsule really exists and no suggestion of what is written on it. And no buried date and no open date. So we're gonna throw the time capsule out. We're gonna say it didn't happen yet, or maybe it did, and they're just waiting to script it until the next generation. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. The Guidestones were purposely designed to track the sun's east to west migration year-round during the equinox or solstice. Those who stand at the west side of the Mel slot, which I was talking about earlier, this looks like a Mel slot just carved into the stone, can see the sunrise over the horizon. The 4 outer stones are positioned to mark the limits of the 18.6-year lunar declination cycle. All my friends who know Aquarius sun and Sagittarius moon and all that will probably know what's going on here. An eye-level hole drilled in the center stone permits viewers to locate the North Star. Kind of cool. A small hole drilled through the capstone serves as a sundial. At noon every day, a reading of where the sunbeam hits the center column allows one to pinpoint the exact day of the year. In 2009, a man stole a 6-inch cube of granite from the top of one of the Guidestones. 4 years later, the police arrested William Jeremy Ellis in the middle of the night as he was trying to replace the cube of granite he'd stolen. He explained to the police that he didn't want that weight anymore. Tell me what that means. Didn't want that weight anymore. I mean, it could be that. By the way, the actual site where the Guidestones are is monitored by the Alberton Sheriff's Department 24/7. There are cameras on it at all times. Okay, and as we know, the tablet in front of the monument declares, "Let these be Guidestones to an age of reason." The Guidestones were designed to withstand catastrophic events. Events such as perhaps maybe, I don't know, a World War III that wiped out 7.4 billion people. According to the Alberton Granite Association, Alberton granite is very hard and is very tough to break due to its tightly bonded quartz and feldspar grains as well as their atomic structure. The EGA gives Alberton granite a hardness rating of 6 to 7, with 10 being diamond. So that's it. That is all I have on the Georgia Guidestones, which is a fair amount. I think we went pretty in depth here today, and we covered a lot of bases, and you got at least an hour's worth of show, which is what I am going to be shooting for. What are my thoughts? What do I think? I lean towards the thought that it's more of a, and this is someone that loves Fallout games. This is someone that the Mad Max genre is very entertaining too. Book of Eli. I lean towards it being more of a rebuilding of the country, or rebuilding of the earth, I guess. More so than a genocide of the earth. Just kind of gives you this basis of how to run an earth, run a society, run a civilization. Luckily, in rural southern Georgia, you'll be able to find the Georgia Guidestones, which is one of the safe cities, the golden cities, where you'll be able to figure out how to run an entire world. So like I said, it's the actual the guidelines it's interesting. I mean, I think a majority of them are basically good and what could be considered reasonable things to follow when running a society. Now, on the other hand, if it is a genocide tablet, I guess, genocide instruction guide. I don't know what to say. Yeah, probably not so cool, and understandable that people are upset about it. But I think overall, yeah, it's seems like a reasonable set of rules to me. That seems like things that could be followed and even put in place today, but except for the 500 million. Georgia Guidestones. First episode done. This is it. We got it out there. It's over. It isn't as nerve-wracking as hoped. Let me know what you thought. Like I said, we're on Instagram and Twitter. I'll be including pictures of the Georgia Guidestones. Let me know what you thought. How's the sound quality? How's the content? Is this enjoyable? Is this what's something you want to hear about? Let me know if there's any topics you want me to research and discuss. Did I go into this deep enough? Was there more that I should have said about the Georgia Guidestones? These are all things I would love to hear from the listeners, which you can reach me at dotupodcast@gmail.com. You can message me on Twitter, Instagram, or there is the voicemail option on anchor.fm, which is what I use to stream, or what I use to put this out into the world. They distribute the podcast to all the platforms and just keep things going. So yeah, if you're ever looking to make a podcast, look at Anchor. It is a quality thing. I think really easy to use. You don't need a bunch of fancy recording equipment. I've gotten some nice equipment along the way, but honestly, if you want to record on your phone, you could easily do that and edit, add music, and whatever you want to do. There are a ton of options, ton of tools on Anchor and within the Anchor app. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging out. This was fun. Yeah, the next episode I do, it'll be posted on the socials, which hopefully this is going to be a bi-weekly thing. But yeah, thanks for listening and stay curious.